welcome to the Sleepless Historian. If you find comfort in the soothing cadence of history, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. And don't forget to turn on loop, so you can drift into tranquility without interruption. Now let us settle into a cozy space. Dim the lights. Take a slow, deep breath in, and gently release it. Adjust your pillow and blanket, allowing yourself to sink deeper into the softness. Feel the weight of the day begin to lift away. Inand, disimi, one, Today we embark on a rather peculiar journey. A journey into the quiet, mundane world of medieval village pigeon coops. Yes, pigeon coops. The structures that house these unassuming birds, often overlooked in the grand narratives of history. We will explore the protocols of avian accommodations, the careful measurements of wood and straw, and the delicate routines that dictated the daily care of these feathered inhabitants. We will examine, little by little, how roofs were adjusted for optimal waste management. Yes, the management of pigeon droppings, a task that was, in truth, quite serious. The roofs, sometimes slanted just so, allowed for the easy collection of waste, ensuring the village remained orderly and clean. Each coop had its own specifications, crafted by the hands of local carpenters, who measured every angle and perimeter with meticulous care. As we delve deeper into this tedious investigation, we will discover the methods used to maintain these coops, the routines that were established, day by day, week by week, to ensure the pigeons were healthy and the villagers were content. Imagine the soft sounds of pigeons cooing in the background, the scent of fresh straw, and the gentle touch of wood against your fingers as we describe the simple yet essential elements of this historical niche. So let us begin this calming exploration, where the details linger and the stillness envelops us. Breathe slowly now, and gently, as we unravel the history of these often forgotten structures, one quiet detail at a time. The materials used in constructing these pigeon coops were quite simple, yet effective. Local wood was the primary choice, usually sourced from nearby forests. Oak and pine were favored for their durability and resistance to rot. Carpenters would select sturdy beams, often measuring 2 inches by 4 inches, perfect for framing the structure. This careful selection of materials ensured that the coops would withstand the elements, protecting the pigeons from rain and wind. To build these coops, a variety of tools were employed. The carpenter's toolkit included a saw, an axe, and a hammer, each selected for its specific purpose. The saw would slice through the beams while the axe would shape them, creating rounded edges for safety. The hammer, a familiar companion, would drive nails into place, securing the structure with precision. Each strike of the hammer echoed softly in the quiet village, a rhythmic reminder of the work being done. As the walls rose, roof construction became a focal point. The roof materials often consisted of either thatch or wooden shingles. Thatch, made from dried reeds, was lightweight and effective at shedding rain, while wooden shingles, carefully crafted, provided a more robust barrier against the weather. The roofs were typically pitched at a gentle angle, allowing rainwater to flow off easily. This was essential not just for the pigeons' comfort, but also for the management of droppings. The soft slope would guide the waste toward collection troughs, designed to catch droppings and minimize odor. This process of collection was often overseen by the youngest members of the household. Small children, eager to assist, would be tasked with this duty. They learned early on the importance of cleanliness in their village, which fostered a sense of responsibility. Each morning they would rise with the sun, stretching sleep from their limbs, and head to the coop with a small wooden bucket in hand. They would collect the droppings carefully, ensuring nothing was missed. This task, though seemingly mundane, played a vital role in the daily rhythm of village life. The, the collected waste was not discarded carelessly. Instead, it was stored in a designated area, often a wooden shed, where it could be composted. Farmers understood the value of pigeon droppings as a potent fertilizer. This practice was not merely a method of waste disposal, but rather a step toward enriching the soil, promoting growth in gardens and fields. The cycle of waste and renewal was a comforting aspect of village life, a gentle reminder of nature's rhythms. In the evenings, as the sun dipped below the horizon, families would gather to discuss the day's tasks. The care of the pigeons was a common topic. Each member of the household had their role to play. The father often oversaw the construction and maintenance of the coop, while the mother ensured the pigeons were fed. Feeding routines were simple yet essential. Oats, grains, and seeds were the staple diet for these birds. Villagers would purchase these supplies from local merchants, often paying by the measure, with each measure equating to about a quart. The act of feeding the pigeons was a soothing ritual. Each grain was scattered lovingly within the coop, inviting the pigeons to peck and coo in delight. This routine unfolded at dawn and dusk, aligning with the natural rhythms of the day. Children would often join in, delighting in the gentle flutter of wings and soft coos that filled the air. These moments fostered a connection between the villagers and their feathered companions, creating a sense of community. So, occasionally the villagers would gather for a larger task, coop maintenance. This was a collective effort, with neighbors coming together to ensure each coop was in good repair. They would bring their tools, ready for a day of gentle labor. The sounds of hammers and saws would mix with laughter and conversation, creating a comfortable ambience. Haha! During these gatherings, carpenters would demonstrate techniques for reinforcing roofs and walls, sharing valuable knowledge passed down through generations. They spoke of measurements, often referencing the traditional unit of the foot, comprising 12 inches. This unit was used universally, creating a shared understanding among the villagers. Indeed. The schedule for coop maintenance was well established, occurring at the beginning of each season, ensuring that every coop remained in optimal condition. Each season brought its own challenges, from the harsh winds of winter to the heavy rains of spring. Villagers understood that preparation was essential, and they approached these tasks with a sense of calm purpose. On days when repairs were needed, the children would gather the necessary materials. They would carefully measure lengths of wood, ensuring each piece was cut to the correct size. The act of measuring was often accompanied by a gentle chant, repeating the numbers softly, imbuing the task with a sense of rhythm. Now, as the day drew to a close, the pigeons would settle onto their perches, feathers fluffed against the evening chill. The villagers, satisfied with their labors, would stand back to admire the coops. Each structure, a testament to their hard work, stood proudly within the landscape. The roofs, adjusted and tended to, held the promise of a new day, ensuring that the pigeons would remain sheltered and safe. Oh, at night, the village would fall into a peaceful hush. The coops, bathed in moonlight, looked serene against the starry sky. This tranquility enveloped the village, a reminder of the simple pleasures of life. The pigeons nestled together, their gentle cooing a soothing lullaby. In the early hours of dawn, the villagers would awaken once more. With the rising sun, they would begin their daily routines anew. The coops needed tending, and the pigeons required care. The cycle continued, day after day, a harmonious blend of responsibilities and gentle moments shared among fam. The pigeon coops were more than mere structures. They were woven into the fabric of village life. Each detail, from the materials used to construct them to the rituals of care, contributed to a sense of community. This history, though quiet and unassuming, tells a story of connection, cooperation, and the soothing rhythms of daily life. In our key. So, as we linger in this exploration, let us take a moment to breathe deeply. Inhale slowly and gently. Imagine the softness of the straw, the warmth of feathered bodies, and the gentle sounds of cooing filling the air. Allow yourself to drift into this calm narrative, where the details wrap around you like a warm blanket, inviting you to rest. As the sun began to rise higher in the sky, illuminating the village with its warm glow, the daily tasks of caring for the pigeon coops awaited the villagers. Each morning, a gentle routine unfolded, one that was both serene and meticulously organized. The first task was to gather the necessary tools, a process that required a quiet focus and deliberate movements. Villagers would slowly make their way to the shed, where they stored their equipment. Inside, wooden shelves held an assortment of items. There were small hand brooms made from twigs, their bristles soft and pliable. These were essential for sweeping the floors of the coops, a task done with care to ensure a clean environment for the pigeons. A sturdy bucket, crafted from weathered wood, was filled with fresh straw, ready to be scattered throughout the coops. This straw provided soft bedding for the birds, creating a comfortable place for them to rest. In addition to the straw, a small container of grain sat on the shelf. The grain, a mixture of wheat and corn, was carefully measured out each day. Villagers would use a simple wooden scoop, its surface smooth from years of use. Each scoop held about a cup of grain, enough to feed several pigeons. The villagers knew that feeding the pigeons was not just a chore. It was a moment of connection. The gentle flutter of wings filled the air as the birds gathered, their hunger evident in their excited cooing. As the villagers moved back to the coops, they would take a moment to appreciate the serenity around them. The morning sun cast gentle shadows on the grass, and the soft breeze carried the faint scent of fresh earth and blooming flowers. Each step toward the coop felt purposeful, a reminder of the daily rituals that bound them to this simple life. Once at the coop, the first task was to open the wooden door, which creaked softly, revealing the interior. The coops were built with care, using sturdy timber that had been treated to withstand the elements. The walls were lined with wooden roosts, each a few inches high, providing safe perches for the pigeons. The roof, slanted for rain runoff, was designed with a slight overhang, ensuring that the interior remained dry. Inside, the villagers would first check the bedding. The straw needed to be fluffed and spread evenly across the floor. With each gentle movement of the hand, the straw would breathe, releasing a faint, comforting aroma that mingled with the scent of the birds. The villagers took their time with this task, ensuring that the bedding was deep enough to absorb any moisture, but not so thick that it would become a breeding ground for pests. Once satisfied with the bedding, it was time to tend to the feeding. The villagers would carefully pour the measured grain into shallow wooden trays, which were placed along the coop floor. Each tray was crafted to hold just the right amount of food, ensuring that all the pigeons could eat comfortably. The villagers would watch as the birds approached, their movements delicate and graceful. The gentle pecking of beaks against the grain was a rhythmic sound, adding to the serene atmosphere. Yee. With feeding complete, the next step involved checking the water supply. Each coop was equipped with a simple earthenware bowl, carefully filled with fresh, clean water. The villagers knew that hydration was vital for the pigeons' health. They would lift the bowl, checking for any debris or dirt that may have settled inside. If needed, the water would be replaced, poured in gently to avoid splashing. The villagers took pride in providing a clean source of hydration, understanding that even this small detail contributed to the overall well-being of the birds. Then came the task of maintenance. The roofs of the pigeon coops required regular inspection. The pitched roofs were covered with wooden shingles, each one fitted snugly to prevent leaks. Villagers would climb a small ladder, ensuring their movements were slow and careful. They would examine each shingle, looking for signs of wear or damage. If a shingle was loose, it would be gently tapped back into place, or if broken, it would be removed and replaced with a new one. The materials used for repairs were often sourced from the very trees that surrounded the village. Local hardwoods, such as oak and maple, provided sturdy replacements. The villagers knew that using natural materials ensured the longevity of the coops. They took their time measuring each piece, using a simple hand saw to cut it to size. Each cut was deliberate, a gentle process that required patience and attention to detail. As the day continued, the villagers would engage in further tasks, all designed to enhance the living conditions for their avian companions. They would collect droppings from the coops, a task that, while not glamorous, was essential for maintaining cleanliness. Using small spades, they would carefully scoop up the waste, transferring it to a designated compost pile. The compost would eventually nourish the village gardens, completing a cycle of life that was both practical and sustainable. The droppings, rich in nutrients, would break down over time, contributing to the fertility of the soil. This careful management of waste was a testament to the village's commitment to their environment. They understood that every part of the process was interconnected, and their efforts ensured a thriving community, both human and avian. I hear it. Throughout these tasks, the villagers maintained a rhythm that was both soothing and methodical. Each action flowed into the next, creating a sense of order. There were certain times during the day when the coops were particularly quiet, allowing for moments of reflection. The gentle cooing of the pigeons filled the air, a calming backdrop to the routine of life. As they say, Osa, okay, oh. As the sun began its descent, casting a golden hue across the village, the final chores were attended to. Villagers would once again fill the trays with grain, ensuring that their feathered friends had enough to eat before nightfall. The warmth of the day faded, and with it, the pace began to slow. Each evening, as the pigeons settled in for the night, the villagers would close the coop doors gently, ensuring that the birds were safe and secure. This final act of care was a reminder of their commitment to the well-being of the pigeons. In this simple yet profound routine, the villagers found solace. They embraced the quiet moments, the small tasks that filled their days with purpose. As they returned to their homes, they carried with them the knowledge that their efforts made a difference, however small. The gentle cycles of feeding, cleaning, and caring were woven into the very fabric of their lives, creating a tapestry of connection and harmony. So, as we pause and breathe, let us reflect on these mundane yet significant moments. Inhale softly and exhale slowly, allowing the rhythm of daily life to wash over you. Imagine the calming presence of the pigeons, the gentle brush of straw, and the soothing sounds of a village at work. Allow yourself to drift deeper into this peaceful narrative, where the details of life intertwine like the gentle threads of a dream. Whoa. As the sun sank lower in the sky, the villagers began their evening rituals, moving about with a gentle rhythm that was as comforting as the soft cooing of the pigeons nestled within their coops. Each task was imbued with purpose, each motion deliberate and calm. For the villagers, caring for the pigeons was not merely a chore. It was a daily expression of their connection to the animals and their role in the community. Kenyo. The first step in the evening routine was to gather the necessary tools for the care of the coops. Simple hand tools were essential. A sturdy wooden broom to sweep out the remnants of the day, a small trowel to remove waste, and a bucket for collecting the droppings. The broom, with its rough bristles worn from years of use. The trowel, with its smooth metal blade, would glide easily under the straw, displacing it with ease. Each sweep and scrape was rhythmic, a sound that echoed softly in the cool evening air. Next came the fresh straw, which would be laid down to provide a clean, comfortable resting place for the pigeons. Villagers sourced the straw from nearby fields, where bundles were tied with twine and sold for a modest price, often just a few pennies for a sufficient quantity. Each bundle, when opened, released a faint, earthy aroma, reminiscent of summer days spent in the fields. The villagers would gather the straw, carrying it back to the coop in their arms, feeling its weight and sensing its texture. They would then carefully spread it over the floor of the coop, ensuring even coverage, and fluffing it gently to create a soft bed for the birds. To ensure the health of the pigeons, a regular schedule of feeding was essential. Each evening, as twilight descended, the villagers would prepare small bowls filled with a mixture of grains. This mixture often included wheat, barley, and peas sourced from local markets. Each grain was carefully measured. Typically, 2 cups of grains were deemed sufficient for the flock. The bowls were then placed at the far end of the coop, away from the nesting areas, allowing the pigeons to eat in peace. The act of pouring the grains was calming, the soft clinking of the grains against the ceramic bowls like a gentle lullaby. Feeding the pigeons was often performed by the children of the village, who found joy in this simple task. With small hands, they would fill the bowls, their fingers brushing against the cool surface of the grains. They would watch the pigeons flock to the feeding area, the birds moving with a fluid grace, pecking at the food and cooing softly to one another. The children delighted in these moments, feeling a sense of pride in their role as caregivers. Once the pigeons were fed, it was time to check on their health. The villagers learned to recognize the signs of well-being in their birds. A pigeon with bright eyes and smooth feathers was a sign of good health, while a bird appearing lethargic or ruffled would prompt concern. Each evening, the villagers would walk among the coops, gently lifting a bird if necessary to check for any signs of distress. This careful observation was a peaceful practice, one that fostered a bond between the villagers and their feathered companions. After ensuring the well-being of the pigeons, the next task was to maintain the structure of the coop itself. The roofs of these coops were designed with practicality in mind. Typically, they were constructed from timber, secured with wooden pegs, and fastened with straw thatch. Each roof was carefully thatched, ensuring that it sloped gently to allow rainwater to run off easily, preventing leaks that might disturb the delicate straw bedding within. Periodically, the villagers would gather to inspect the roofs. This task required teamwork and patience. A few villagers would ascend ladders to reach the higher points of the coop, checking for signs of wear, while others would stand on the ground, offering support. Together, they would replace any damaged thatch, cutting fresh pieces from nearby reeds and weaving them into the existing structure. This process was meticulous, requiring focus and care, with each villager knowing their role in maintaining the integrity of the coop. Throughout this gentle labor, conversations flowed freely, punctuated by soft laughter and shared stories. While the work was steady, it was also infused with camaraderie. Villagers would exchange tips on optimal roof adjustments for effective rain drainage and discuss the merits of various straw types for bedding. Each evening, they would take a moment to admire their handiwork, appreciating the craftsmanship involved in creating a safe and nurturing home for the pigeon. As the final tasks of the evening were completed, the villagers would settle in for the night. The coops, now secure and tidy, stood as a testament to their dedication. The gentle cooing of the pigeons filled the air, a soothing sound that echoed softly into the evening. As the moon rose high above the village, casting a silvery glow over the coops, the villagers would feel a sense of fulfillment wash over them. Each act of caring, each thoughtful gesture, contributed to the harmonious existence shared between humans and their avian companions. The routines of feeding, cleaning, and maintenance were not just chores. They were rituals that fostered a deeper connection with the world around them. In this tranquil environment, the villagers embraced the simplicity of their lives. They understood that these small, mundane tasks were the threads that wove their community together. As the night deepened, they would retire to their homes, carrying with them the warmth of the day's work and the comforting knowledge that they had done their part. Slowly and gently, they would lay down their heads on soft pillows, drifting into dreams filled with the soft coos of pigeons, the scent of fresh straw, and the quiet satisfaction of a day well spent. The cycles of life continued, and with each turn of the day, the villagers found peace in their routines, embedded in the very essence of their being. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue across the village, the villagers prepared for the evening rituals associated with their cherished pigeon coops. Each day, at the same hour, the gentle sounds of their lives intertwined with the soft cooing of the birds. The villagers knew that a well-maintained coop was essential for the health of their birds and the overall harmony of their household. The coops, constructed from sturdy timber and thatched with straw, were designed with care. Each coop measured approximately 6 feet long and 4 feet wide, offering ample space for the pigeons to move about comfortably. The roof, slanting gently to allow rainwater to flow away, was adjusted regularly to ensure optimal conditions. Villagers would climb the sturdy wooden ladder, measuring the angle with a simple carpenter's square, ensuring that it sat precisely at a 30-degree incline. This small detail was vital for preventing water accumulation, which could lead to dampness within the coop top. To secure the roof, they used wooden pegs fashioned from local timber, each one roughly 8 inches long. These pegs were hammered in gently, ensuring a snug fit that would withstand the elements. The villagers took pride in their attention to detail, and in the evenings they would gather tools, hammers, chisels, and pieces of rope to make any necessary adjustments. The act of tending to the coop was not merely a task. It became an opportunity for connection, for teaching the young ones the importance of diligence and care. The pigeons were typically fed a mixture of grains, including wheat, barley, and corn, sourced from the local mill. Each week, a villager would make the journey to the mill, carrying a burlap sack that could hold up to 50 pounds of grain. The cost of this grain was modest, amounting to a few coins, a small price for the sustenance of these gentle creatures. The act of feeding was done twice a day, in the early morning and at dusk, aligning with the natural rhythms of the day. How? When the feed was prepared, it was measured carefully. Each pigeon received roughly half a cup of grain, placed in shallow wooden troughs that were lined with soft hay. This arrangement ensured that the birds could eat comfortably while minimizing waste. The troughs were cleaned weekly, scrubbing them with warm water and a mixture of vinegar to keep them free from bacteria. This maintenance required only a few moments each week, yet the impact was significant, fostering a healthy environment for the pigeons. Cleaning the coops was another essential aspect of their care. Villagers would dedicate one day each week, often Sunday, to perform this task. Armed with wooden scoops and brooms made from twigs, they would carefully remove the droppings and soiled straw. The collected waste was not discarded. Instead, it was stored in small compost heaps behind the coops. These heaps would eventually decompose, becoming rich fertilizer for the village's gardens. Each scoop, taken from the coop, felt like a small sacrifice. Yet, the reward came in the form of thriving plants, nourished by the pigeons' contributions. The pigeons themselves were much-loved members of the household. Each family had a few pairs, typically a male and female, who would bond and lay eggs. The egg-laying process was anticipated with gentle excitement. It was observed that pigeons would lay 2 eggs at a time, and once the eggs were laid, the families would mark the date on a small wooden calendar hung inside their homes. This simple act of recording created a rhythm to their lives, a measure of time that was both practical and sentimental. The pigeons' young would hatch after about 18 days, and the villagers would watch with bated breath as the little chicks emerged. These chicks, with their soft feathers and delicate forms, were the joy of the coop. Families would gather to observe and discuss the changes they saw each day. The chicks were fed a special mixture of crushed grains and soft vegetables, ensuring they grew strong and healthy. Additionally, during the warmer months, the coops would be adorned with flowers. Villagers would plant climbing vines around the coop structure, allowing blossoms to cascade down the sides. This beautification process was soothing in its own right, as it provided a sense of joy and pride. The flowers attracted beneficial insects, which in turn aided in pollination. The gentle fragrance of blossoms mingled with the earthy scent of straw, creating a tranquil atmosphere that enveloped the entire village. As dusk settled in, the villagers would gather to close the coops for the night. Each coop had a simple latch system, crafted from the same sturdy timber as the structure, allowing for ease of use. With a gentle click, the doors were secured, ensuring that the pigeons were safe from any nighttime predators. This nightly ritual was conducted with care, a reminder of the responsibilities they held. Once the coops were secured, families would often sit outside, sharing stories and laughter, their voices blending with the soft coos of the pigeons. The evenings were filled with a sense of calm, and the stars twinkled above, as if joining in this quiet moment of community. The villagers understood that these simple routines, woven into the fabric of their lives, created a sense of stability and peace. The following day, as the sun rose and cast its light over the village, the cycle would begin anew. The pigeons would greet the dawn with soft coos, a gentle reminder of the joy found in mundane tasks. Each day, the villagers would rise early, tending to the coops once more, repeating the simple acts of care and connection that defined their existence. Slowly and gently, they would move through their routines, each step imbued with purpose. The pigeons remained a central part of their lives, a thread that tied them together, fostering a deeper understanding of nature and responsibility. As the seasons changed, these rituals would continue, ensuring that both the villagers and their beloved birds thrived in their shared world. Nishain and Bjornmo. As the sun ascended higher in the sky, casting warm rays upon the village, the daily routines of the villagers became a rhythmic dance of simplicity. With the soft light illuminating the coops, each family member would gather their tools, preparing for the day's task of maintaining their avian accommodations. The tools they used were often simple and handmade, crafted from local materials. Wooden scoops, made from sturdy oak, were essential for removing the droppings from the coops. These scoops were often about 2 feet in length, with a wide, flat head, allowing for easy collection of the soft, earthy waste that the pigeons produced. Dice. The villagers understood the importance of cleanliness, and so, each morning they would spend about half an hour attending to this task. They would scoop the droppings into woven baskets, crafted from pliable willow branches. These baskets were light yet sturdy, typically holding around 15 to 20 pounds of waste. Once filled, the baskets would be carefully transported to the nearby fields, where the droppings would be spread thinly to enrich the soil, returning nutrients to the earth. No. Families took turns in this duty, with children learning the importance of this labor. Parents would guide their little ones, showing them the proper angle to hold the scoop, the right amount of pressure to use. Gently now. Gently, they would say, as they encouraged their children to feel the satisfaction of tending to their birds. After the droppings were cleared away, the next item on the agenda was the replenishment of food and water. The pigeons were fed a mixture of grains, primarily barley and wheat, which were purchased from the local market every fortnight. A small sack of grain, weighing about 25 pounds, cost a few pence, making it an affordable staple for the villagers. Each family would store their grain in wooden chests, lined with burlap to keep the contents dry. The food was measured out into small wooden troughs, crafted with care to ensure that the pigeons could easily access their meals. Each trough could hold approximately 5 pounds of grain, enough to feed a small flock for a day. The villagers would pour the grain into the troughs, watching as the pigeons fluttered down to eat, their soft feathers ruffling in the gentle breeze. Water, too, was essential. The villagers would fill ceramic bowls with fresh water, ensuring that the pigeons had access to clear liquid at all times. These bowls were about a foot in diameter, made from locally sourced clay that was smoothed and shaped by skilled hands. They would be placed in shaded areas of the coop, preventing the water from becoming too warm under the sun. Each family member had a designated role. One would handle the food while another would manage the water supply. The children, eager to participate, would often take turns carrying the water bowls, carefully balancing them as they walked. Steady now. Steady. The parents would remind them, instilling a sense of pride in these small practices. Once the food and water were in place, the villagers would inspect the coops for any necessary repairs. Roofs, made of thatch or wooden shingles, sometimes required adjustment. They would climb up to the coop roofs, tools in hand, checking for loose materials or gaps that might allow rain to seep through. This inspection was crucial, as a dry coop ensured that the pigeons remained healthy and comfortable, The tools for these repairs included hammers, nails, and sometimes lengths of rope to secure loose shingles. Villagers would often gather around, sharing tools and tips, the conversation filled with gentle laughter and camaraderie. A little tighter here, and then a little more over there. They would advise one another, creating a cooperative atmosphere that made the work feel less burdensome. As they worked, the villagers would also consider the placement of the coops. Some families preferred their coops on the eastern side of their homes, allowing the morning sun to warm the birds. Others chose shaded areas where the pigeons could find respite during the hotter parts of the day. These decisions were often made collectively, with families discussing the pros and cons, weighing their options thoughtfully. The height of the coops was another consideration. Most coops stood around 6 feet tall, allowing for the pigeons to perch comfortably. The entrance to the coop was always lower, about 3 feet from the ground, making it easy for the birds to enter and exit. The coops were designed not just for functionality, but also for the well-being of the pigeons. Each coop had ventilation holes, allowing fresh air to circulate, which was vital for the birds' health. For additional comfort, the interiors of the coops were lined with straw. What? This straw was replaced regularly, ensuring that the living area remained clean and dry. The villagers would gather straw from the fields, bundling it neatly and then transporting it back to the coops. Fresh straw today, fresh and soft, they would say as they spread it evenly across the floor, creating a cozy environment for their feathered friends. The process of caring for the pigeons continued throughout the day. As the sun began to set, families would return to the coops to check on their birds once more. The pigeons would be resting, their soft coos filling the air, creating a soothing atmosphere. The villagers would sit nearby, listening to the gentle sounds, feeling a deep sense of peace. In the evenings, the coops would be secured for the night. Doors would be carefully closed, ensuring the pigeons were safe from nighttime predators. The villagers would take a moment to reflect on their day, appreciating the simple joys found in their routines. Tomorrow, we will do it all again, they would think, feeling content in the knowledge that they were nurturing life. And time passed slowly in the village, each day mirroring the last. The pigeons, with their soft coos and gentle presence, offered a sense of stability. The villagers, in their simple acts of care, found fulfillment in their roles. Each task, though mundane, was imbued with meaning, reminding them of the connections they forged with the birds and with one another. And so, the seasons turned, bringing changes of light and temperature, yet the routines remained steadfast. The pigeons reminded the villagers of the rhythms of nature, the cycles of life and care that bound them together in unspoken harmony. Slowly and gently, the days flowed into one another, a comforting cadence in the quiet village. As the villagers embraced their daily routines, they often found themselves relying on a set of simple but essential tools to maintain the pigeon coops. A sturdy wooden broom, its handle worn smooth from years of use, would be used to sweep out the straw and feathers that accumulated on the coop floor. This task, though repetitive, was carried out with care. The broom bristles would softly glide across the surface, collecting the remnants of the pigeons' daily activities. Each morning, a gentle sweep would take approximately 10 minutes. This was a quiet time, a moment to pause and reflect, listening to the soft sounds of the village awakening. Next, the villagers would gather fresh straw, which was the preferred bedding for the coops. They would visit the local fields to collect it, filling their baskets with the golden strands that would serve as a comfortable resting place for their birds. One basket would typically hold about 4 to 5 pounds of straw, enough to refresh the bedding for several coops. Once the straw was gathered, the villagers would return to the coops. They would begin the process of replacing the old bedding with the new idea. This task, though straightforward, required a tender touch. The villagers would carefully lift the old straw, allowing the pigeons to observe while they prepared to lay down the fresh bedding. They would sprinkle the straw evenly across the floor, creating a soft, inviting layer that would absorb moisture and provide warmth. The pigeons, curious creatures by nature, would often flutter about during this time, inspecting the fresh straw with their gentle beaks. The villagers observed their birds closely, noting any signs of discomfort or unease. Each pigeon had its own personality, and recognizing these differences was a part of the nurturing process. Some pigeons were more timid, preferring to remain in the corners, while others were bold and adventurous, exploring their surroundings with gusto. This understanding deepened the connection between the villagers and their birds. In the afternoons, the villagers would dedicate time to ensuring the coops were well ventilated. This was vital for the health of the pigeons. They would gently open the small windows, crafted from thin wooden slats, allowing fresh air to circulate while keeping the birds safe from any drafts. The windows were often left open for several hours, providing a natural airflow that kept the coops fresh and clean. The villagers knew that proper ventilation helped prevent the buildup of unwanted odors and moisture, creating a more pleasant environment for both the birds and themselves. They would sit nearby, basking in the warmth of the sun as it filtered through the trees. The gentle breeze would carry the soft coos of the pigeons, creating a soothing backdrop to their afternoon tasks. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows over the village, the time would come for feeding. The villagers would gather a mixture of grains, typically consisting of wheat, corn, and barley. Each grain was chosen for its nutritional value, ensuring that the pigeons remained healthy and strong. They would measure out approximately half a cup of grains for each bird, placing them in shallow ceramic dishes. This feeding routine was a daily ritual, marked by quiet anticipation. The pigeons, recognizing the familiar sound of the grains being poured, would gather at the feeding stations, their soft coos filling the air. Villagers watched with a sense of satisfaction as the birds feasted, content in the knowledge that they were providing sustenance and care. After the feeding was complete, the villagers would check the water supply. A simple wooden trough, filled with fresh water, was placed in the corner of the coop. This trough was cleaned and refilled daily, ensuring the pigeons had access to clean drinking water at all times. The process of filling the trough took only a few moments, yet it was an essential step in maintaining the well-being of the birds. As night approached, a different kind of routine would unfold. The villagers would check the coops one last time before closing them for the evening. They would inspect the doors, ensuring they were securely fastened, and look over the coop for any signs of wear or damage. This checkup was a gentle practice, one that required attention to detail. The villagers would often carry a small toolkit with them, containing essential items such as nails, a hammer, and a small saw. Should any repairs be needed, they could quickly address them, ensuring the coops remained safe and sound. This attention to detail, although seemingly mundane, brought peace of mind. At this time of day, the villagers would often pause to appreciate the quiet that enveloped the village. The sun would set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The soft sounds of the pigeons settling in for the night provided a calming backdrop. The villagers would take a moment to breathe deeply, inhaling the cool evening air feeling a connection to the life around them. Why? As they prepared for rest, they would reflect on the cycle of the day, the sweeping, the feeding, the quiet moments spent with their cherished birds. Each task, each gentle interaction contributed to a rhythm that soothed their minds and settled their hearts. Slowly and gently, they would lay their heads down, feeling the weight of the day ease away, knowing that tomorrow would bring the same simple joys. Oh, eh. In the quietude of the night, the pigeons would coo softly, their gentle sounds drifting through the village, wrapping everyone in a blanket of comfort. The villagers knew that as they slept, their avian companions would also rest, nestled in their soft beds of straw. Wanwind. It was a shared rhythm, a shared life, a gentle cycle that would continue day after day in the calm embrace of the village. In Antiwa, as the sun began to rise, casting a soft light over the village, the routines of the day would slowly begin. The villagers, still wrapped in the comfort of their simple homes, would rise one by one. Each morning, the first task was to check on the pigeon coops. The coops, built with sturdy wood and thatched roofs, stood in neat rows near the edge of the village. Their construction was simple yet effective, with each coop measuring about 4 feet wide and 6 feet long. The roofs were gently sloped, designed to allow rainwater to slide off and prevent pooling. The villagers took great care in maintaining these roofs, adjusting them as necessary. A well-maintained roof ensured that the coops remained dry and comfortable for the pigeons. It was a simple task, often requiring little more than a few wooden shingles, some twine, and a gentle hand. The shingles, purchased from the local carpenter, cost only a few pennies each. Each villager had their favorite tools for the job. A sturdy hammer, passed down through generations, would be used to secure any loose shingles. A small hand saw was kept close by for any necessary adjustments. The villagers knew that these tools, while mundane, were essential for the maintenance of their coops, ensuring that their feathered companions remained healthy and happy. Once the roofs were adjusted, it was time to clean the coops. This task was often shared among family members, with each person taking responsibility for different aspects of the process. The cleaning would begin with the removal of old straw and droppings, which were carefully gathered and stored in a compost heap nearby. The straw, sourced from the local fields, was replaced every few days, ensuring a fresh and comfortable bedding for the pigeons. Villagers often exchanged knowledge about the best types of straw for their coops. Some preferred the soft, fine straw that cradled the pigeons gently, while others opted for the coarser varieties that offered better drainage. Each villager would choose what suited their needs best, and over time, these preferences became a topic of gentle conversation during market days. After the cleaning was completed, fresh straw was placed into the coop. A typical coop would require about 3 to 4 bundles of straw, which were easily carried by hand. The villagers would gently lay the straw in a thick layer, ensuring it was fluffy and inviting. This was a calming process, as they took their time to create a warm nest for their pigeons. Next came the feeding. Each coop was equipped with a small wooden feeder, often crafted by the villagers themselves. These feeders were designed to hold a mixture of grains, providing a balanced diet for the pigeons. The grains, usually a mix of wheat, barley, and peas, were purchased from the local miller. A small sack of this feed would cost about 2 pennies and last several days, depending on the number of birds. As the villagers filled the feeders, they would often take a moment to watch the pigeons as they eagerly approached. The gentle clucking and fluttering of wings provided a soothing soundtrack to their morning routine. Slowly and gently, they would pour the grains into the feeders, ensuring each bird had enough to eat. Once the coops were cleaned and the pigeons fed, the villagers would take a moment to inspect the birds. It was a ritual of sorts, a time to check for any signs of discomfort or illness. Each villager would know their pigeons well, recognizing the small details, the way a bird fluffed its feathers, or how it preened its wings. This connection was important, a bond built through daily care and attention. The inspection would often involve a gentle touch, as the villagers would softly stroke the pigeon's feathers. This not only reassured the birds, but also created a calm atmosphere in the coop. The villagers would take turns, sharing the responsibility of caretaking, ensuring that no bird was overlooked. Oh, as the sun climbed higher, the villagers would also take care to enjoy the peaceful moments that accompanied the daily tasks. They would sit quietly near the coops, sipping warm herbal tea from earthen mugs while watching the pigeons. It was during these moments of stillness that they could reflect on the simplicity of their lives, the gentle rhythms that defined their days. Around mid-morning, the villagers would gather again to check on the coops, ensuring the pigeons were thriving. This time, they would also take inventory of any supplies needed for the coops. Each family kept a small ledger, noting down how many bundles of straw were left, how many sacks of grain were needed, and any tools that required repair or replacement. The ledger was often kept in a small wooden box, placed securely on a shelf in the home. The act of writing down these details was calming, allowing the villagers to create a clear picture of their needs. Each entry was made in the same careful handwriting, a rhythmic pattern that mirrored their daily tasks. When supplies ran low, it was time to visit the market. The village market was a quaint affair, filled with the sounds of friendly chatter and the scents of fresh produce. The villagers would stroll through the market, checking the stalls for the best prices on straw and grain. It was a leisurely outing, often accompanied by a sense of community. One night, Inanpori, Dust, Rian Piao. As they walked, the villagers would greet their neighbors and share stories about the pigeons. These conversations often centered around breeding practices, feeding techniques, or even the cooing sounds that varied from bird to bird. It was a shared passion, fostering connections through the humble act of caring for their avian companions. Ding one. At the market, a sack of grain could cost anywhere from 2 to 3 pennies, depending on the season. The villagers learned to bargain gently, finding joy in the exchange. They would often carry their purchases back to the coops, feeling a sense of accomplishment with each step. By midday, the sun would be high in the sky, casting warm light over the village. The villagers would gather for lunch, often sharing simple meals of bread, cheese, and perhaps a bit of fruit. It was a moment of rest, a time to pause and reflect on the morning's tasks. The gentle sounds of the pigeons cooing in the background would serve as a calming reminder of the life they cherished. Densio. After lunch, the villagers would return to the coops to check on the pigeons once more. They would replenish the water supply, filling shallow bowls with fresh water. The bowls were often made of clay, cooled to the touch, and easily cleaned after each use. Providing clean water was essential, ensuring that the pigeons remained hydrated throughout the day. The villagers understood that keeping the coops clean and the pigeons well-fed required diligence and care. Each task was simple yet necessary, a series of small actions that created a nurturing environment for their birds. It was a rhythm that brought peace to their days and a sense of fulfillment. Oh, as the afternoon sun began its descent, casting golden hues across the village, the villagers would once again settle near the coops, taking a moment to appreciate the tranquility of their surroundings. The pigeons, now well rested and well fed, would coo softly, their gentle sounds drifting through the air. Each note was a reminder of the shared life, a connection that bound the villagers to their feathered companions in the cozy embrace of the village. Now, as the afternoon wore on, the villagers would begin their preparations for evening. They would gather the tools needed for the daily ritual of caring for the pigeon coops. Simple tools, yet essential for the tasks at hand. Wooden scoops for the feed, soft brushes for cleaning, and clay containers for water would be collected with care. Each item had its place, and the act of gathering became a soothing routine in itself. This would be the feed, composed of a mixture of grains, often wheat, barley, and peas, was measured carefully in small wooden bowls. Each bowl held precisely 1 pint of feed, enough for the pigeons to enjoy. The villagers knew that overfeeding could lead to waste, and so they took their time with each portion, ensuring that no grain was left unaccounted for. As they measured the grains, the villagers would often hum soft melodies, creating a gentle soundtrack to their work, a rhythm that echoed in the stillness of the late afternoon. Once the feed was prepared, it would be stored in a cool, dry area of the barn. The barn, with its sturdy wooden beams and thatched roof, provided a perfect environment for preserving the grains. Inside, the air would be still, the scent of earth and grain mingling softly. The villagers would take turns filling the storage containers, stacking them neatly in a corner designated for pigeon feed. Each container was made of stout wood, with tight-fitting lids to keep pests at bay. A small chalkboard hung nearby, where they would mark the date of each filling, keeping track of the supply to ensure that nothing would spoil. And the evening light would begin to fade, and the villagers would gather near the coops, ready to feed their birds. They would stand quietly for a moment, watching as the pigeons fluffed their feathers and cooed softly in anticipation. Slowly and gently, the villagers would take the bowls of grain and distribute it evenly among the coops. Each movement was deliberate, as they placed the bowls on the ground, making sure that each pigeon could access their food without any rush or competition. The coops themselves were simple structures, constructed of wooden panels and thatched roofs. The roofs were designed with a slight slope, allowing rainwater to run off easily, while also providing shade from the harsh midday sun. Each coop was about 4 feet long, 2 feet wide, and 3 feet high. The dimensions were just right for accommodating a small family of pigeons, creating a cozy atmosphere for them to thrive. Villagers would often discuss the importance of maintaining the coops, adjusting the roofs if necessary, to ensure proper drainage and ventilation. This task was often carried out in the early mornings or late afternoons, when the sun was low and the air was cool. When it came time to clean the coops, the villagers approached the task with care and reverence. Armed with soft brushes and small shovels, they would remove any debris and droppings, ensuring that the space was clean and pleasant for the pigeons. Routine cleaning was a critical part of pigeon care, as it prevented illness and kept the birds happy. It often took about half an hour to thoroughly clean each coop, a small investment of time for the health of the flock. Until the droppings, once collected, were not wasted. The villagers understood the value of using these natural fertilizers in their garden. They would carefully transport the droppings to a designated area outside the village where they would decompose. The composting process was another rhythm in their daily lives, turning waste into nourishment for their crops. The act of composting brought a sense of satisfaction, knowing that they were nurturing the very land that provided for them. As dusk settled over the village, the villagers would engage in a final check of the coops. They would ensure that the doors were securely closed and that all the pigeons were accounted for. A soft lantern with a flickering flame would illuminate the area, casting gentle shadows on the ground. The light created a serene atmosphere, inviting peace and calm to the evening ritual. The villagers often enjoyed a moment of stillness before retreating for the night. They would stand by the coops, listening to the gentle sounds of the pigeons settling down. Each coo and rustle was a reminder of the companionship they shared with these birds. In that quiet time, they would reflect on the simple pleasures of their day, the rhythm of their lives intertwined with the lives of their feathered friends. After the final check was complete, the villagers would return to their homes. The evening meal was often a modest affair, consisting of hearty stews made from seasonal vegetables and grains. While they ate, they would share stories of the day, recounting the small joys and challenges of pigeon keeping. Once the meal was finished, the villagers would often gather around the hearth. The flickering firelight would create a warm glow, inviting relaxation and comfort. They would sometimes pass around small wooden trinkets, crafted by their own hands, gifts made in gratitude for the life the pigeons provided. Each trinket was a token of love and appreciation, a small reminder of the bond shared with the birds that graced their lives. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, the villagers would indulge in a final thought of the day. They would remind themselves of the importance of routine, the value of caring for the coops, and the joy of adjusting the roofs for optimal conditions. A simple life, filled with small tasks, brought them together and gave meaning to each day. Slowly and gently, with the day drawing to a close, the villagers would prepare for sleep. Blankets would be drawn close, candles snuffed out, and pillows fluffed. They would settle into their beds, comforted by the knowledge that their pigeons were safe, secure, and well cared for. The soft cooing of the birds would linger in their minds, a soothing lullaby that would accompany them into the realm of dreams. Yeah. In the stillness of the night, the village would rest, wrapped in the quietude of their shared existence. The pigeons, nestled in their coops, would sleep soundly, their soft bodies rising and falling in rhythm with the gentle sounds of the night. All was well in the village, a serene testament to the simple, yet profound nature of their daily lives. Why, more. As dawn broke gently over the village, the early light cast a soft glow upon the humble pigeon coops. Each morning began with a quiet ritual, a routine that was both calming and necessary. The villagers, still wrapped in their woven blankets, would awaken to the sounds of soft coos. The first task of the day was to ensure the pigeons were fed and their coops were tended to. The feed, a mixture of grains such as wheat, barley, and corn, was stored in simple earthenware jars. Each jar was carefully labeled, marking the type of grain it contained. The villagers would measure out small portions, typically about a cup of grains for each pigeon. This careful attention ensured that each bird received its share, fostering health and vitality. The jars, filled with the earthy scent of grains, would sit in a cool corner of the main room, away from the warmth of the hearth. Once the grains were prepared, a gentle walk to the coops commenced, the villagers moving slowly, savoring the early morning air. The coops, built from sturdy wood, had roofs that were often designed with a slight pitch to allow rainwater to run off. This roof maintenance was critical, as it helped prevent the accumulation of moisture that could lead to decay. Each roof was measured precisely to fit the dimensions of the coop, typically about 6 feet in length and 4 feet in width. The tools required for such maintenance were simple yet effective. A wooden mallet, often crafted from local timber, was used to tap shingles into place, while a hand saw would be employed to trim any excess wood. The shingles themselves were usually made from thin slices of cedar, known for their durability and pleasant aroma. Cedar not only added to the structural integrity of the roofs, but also helped deter pests, which was an important consideration for those caring for pigeons. Each day, the villagers would also take time to inspect the coops for any signs of wear or damage. A careful examination would involve looking at the joints and hinges, ensuring everything was secure and functioning properly. If a hinge was found to be rusted or a joint loose, repairs would be made using simple tools, a screwdriver, a wrench, and sometimes a bit of twine for added support. The act of maintaining the coops was not merely a chore. It was an opportunity to build a deeper connection with their birds, to understand their needs, and to create a safe environment. After attending to the roofs, the next task was the cleaning of the coops themselves. Cleaning, though not the most glamorous of tasks, was essential for the health of the pigeons. Each villager would use a wooden scoop to remove the bedding, which was typically made from straw or hay. The bedding would be replaced weekly, ensuring a soft and clean space for the pigeons to rest. This process took about half an hour each morning, a time for reflection and quietude. The collected waste, a mix of straw and pigeon droppings, was not simply discarded. Instead, it was carefully placed into a designated compost bin located near the edge of the village. This compost would eventually be used to enrich the soil in their gardens, contributing to the cycle of nourishment that sustained their lives. The villagers understood that every part of their existence was interconnected, and thus, even the waste from their beloved pigeons held value. With the coops cleaned and the roofs inspected, the villagers would then turn their attention to the feeding. Each pigeon would be called by name, a gentle coo or chirp eliciting a response. The act of feeding was performed with care, each villager offering a small handful of grains to the birds. This routine fostered trust between the villagers and their birds, allowing for a harmonious existence. The pigeons, recognizing the familiar faces of their caretakers, would flock eagerly to the open hands, pecking gently at the scattered grains. While feeding, the villagers would observe their pigeons closely, noting any changes in behavior or health. If a bird appeared sluggish or unwell, the villagers would take immediate action, perhaps isolating it from the others for further observation. This attentiveness was woven into the very fabric of village life, a testament to the deep bond between humans and their avian companions. After the morning routines were complete, the villagers would gather to discuss the day ahead. They would share thoughts on the best time to adjust the roofs, considering factors such as the weather and the season. Adjustments might include adding a layer of additional shingles for insulation during the colder months, or ensuring proper ventilation during the heat of summer. Such discussions, while seemingly mundane, were filled with a sense of purpose and community. The villagers understood the importance of etiquette when it came to caring for the pigeons. When entering the coops, soft footsteps were essential, as sudden movements could startle the birds. It was a matter of respect, of understanding their nature. Villagers would often refer to this as the pigeon peace, a state of calm that allowed both the birds and humans to coexist harmoniously. As the day progressed, the pigeons would be allowed to stretch their wings and fly about the village. The villagers took turns supervising this time, ensuring the birds remained safe while enjoying their freedom. Careful measurements were taken to ensure the boundaries were clear, often marked by simple wooden stakes. The stakes were placed approximately 10 feet apart, creating a gentle perimeter that defined their flying space. And so, each afternoon, the villagers would gather again to observe their birds in flight, sharing stories of their day, and enjoying the simple pleasure of watching the pigeons soar. These moments were filled with laughter and camaraderie, soft voices floating into the air like the gentle wings of the birds themselves. As the evening approached, the villagers would begin the routine of bringing the pigeons back into their coops. This process was conducted with care, ensuring that each bird returned to its designated space. It was customary for the villagers to always count the birds before securing the coops for the night. Each pigeon was precious, and the simple act of counting 1, 2, 3 would bring a sense of comfort and assurance. With the coops secured, the villagers would take a moment to reflect on their day. They would step back, admiring the coops and the careful attention they had given throughout the day. This reflection was a time for gratitude, appreciating the simple yet fulfilling existence they all shared. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the village, the villagers would prepare for the night ahead. They would gather their tools, clean their spaces, and settle into their evening routines. The soft sounds of cooing pigeons would fill the air, a gentle reminder of the lives intertwined within their small community. In this tranquil setting, the villagers would slowly dim the lights, preparing for rest. They would fluff their pillows and draw their blankets close, comforted by the knowledge that their pigeons were safe, secure, and well cared for. The rhythmic sounds of the birds would lull them into a peaceful state, guiding them gently into the embrace of sleep. As the night settled in, the villagers would gather their tools for the evening's final tasks. They would gently take hold of their soft, worn brooms, the bristles slightly frayed from years of use. Each sweep of the broom was deliberate, carefully pushing aside the remnants of the day, the small bits of grain and the occasional feather that had found its way to the ground. The brooms were made of sturdy twigs, bound together with soft, natural twine. Each villager had their own broom, personalized over time, their handles worn smooth from countless evenings spent cleaning. The act of sweeping was not merely a chore, it was a ritual, a way to honor the space in which they lived and worked. When the coops were clean, they would check the feed. The villagers would measure out the grains in precise quantities, using small wooden scoops that fit comfortably in their hands. Each scoop held about 1/4 of a liter, enough to nourish a small flock for an evening. The grains were stored in burlap sacks, neatly stacked in a cool, dry corner of the village storage shed. The sacks were labeled with care, indicating the contents: wheat, barley, and sometimes a touch of corn for variety. The villagers understood the importance of a balanced diet for their pigeons. They would discuss the options among themselves, ensuring that each bird received the proper nutrition. A healthy pigeon is a happy pigeon, they would say softly, their voices blending with the evening air. Once the feeding was complete, they would turn their attention to the roofs of the coops. The roofs were made of wooden shingles, carefully placed to allow for rain runoff while providing shelter. Each shingle had been treated with a mixture of linseed oil and natural varnish, ensuring longevity against the elements. The villagers knew the importance of maintaining these roofs, as a sturdy cover kept the pigeons dry and safe through the seasons. Adjusting the roofs each evening was a soothing practice. The villagers would climb small ladders, their movements slow and careful. The ladders were made of sturdy oak, with each rung spaced at a comfortable height. The sound of soft wood creaking underfoot was calming, blending with the distant cooing of the pigeons. They would inspect each roof, tightening loose shingles with handmade nails, ensuring everything was secure. The slow, rhythmic sound of hammering, a gentle tap, 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 filled the air as they worked. It was a simple task, yet one that brought a sense of satisfaction. After adjusting the roofs, the villagers would apply a light coat of the linseed oil mixture to the edges, preserving the wood and enhancing its natural beauty. This task required patience, as they would take their time, applying the oil with soft rags. The ragged cloth would soak up the oil, darkening the wood and giving the roofs a gentle sheen. As the evening progressed, the villagers would gather again for a moment of camaraderie. They would sit on the cool earth, their backs resting against the sturdy walls of the coops. It was here that they would share stories of the day, recounting small victories and simple joys. The air was filled with the scent of fresh grains and the earthy aroma of the coops. Each villager would take a moment to appreciate the quietude surrounding them. They would breathe in deeply, savoring the stillness, before slowly exhaling, releasing the day's worries. The evening would draw on as they prepared for sleep. The villagers would check their small oil lamps, ensuring the wicks were trimmed and ready for another night of gentle light. The soft glow of the lamps filled the coops with warmth, casting flickering shadows that danced across the wooden beams. They understood the importance of a well-lit space. Each lamp was filled with oil sourced from the nearby fields, a simple yet effective means of illumination. The oil was stored in small glass jars, placed carefully on shelves within the coops. The jars were labeled with dates, an easy reminder of their freshness. With the lamps prepared, the villagers would settle into their evening routine. They would take a moment to enjoy a small meal, often consisting of a slice of hearty bread and a bit of cheese. This simple fare was comforting, nourishing their bodies before they retired for the night. After finishing their meal, they would wash their hands in a nearby trough, the cool water refreshing against their skin. The trough was carved from a single piece of stone, its edges softened by years of use. The gentle splashing of water would mix with the soft sounds of the cooing pigeons, creating a calming symphony of evening life. With their hands clean, the villagers would gather their belongings for the night. They would collect their tools, placing them neatly in their designated spots. Each item had a purpose, a place where it belonged, and returning them to order brought a sense of tranquility. Wire. Tell me more. As the final tasks of the day were completed, the villagers would retire to their homes, carrying with them the reassuring knowledge that all was well. The soft sound of the coops settling for the night would follow them, a gentle reminder of the lives they nurtured. In their homes, they would find comfort in their familiar surroundings. The gentle glow of the oil lamps, would illuminate their simple rooms, casting a golden hue over worn wooden furniture and soft woolen blankets. They would take a moment to reflect on their day, to appreciate the rhythm of their lives. As they lay down, they would pull the blankets close, feeling the warmth envelop them. The soft cooing of the pigeons would lull them into a peaceful state, guiding them gently into the embrace of sleep. Each breath would slow, each heartbeat would calm, as the night wrapped around them like a warm, comforting cocoon. Are you... In the stillness of the night, as the villagers settled into their restful slumber, the pigeons in their coops would also find peace. The coops, built meticulously from local timber, stood sturdy against the gentle evening breeze. Each coop was constructed with care, using wooden planks that measured precisely 6 inches in width and 8 feet in length. The height of these structures typically reached around 6 feet, providing ample space for the birds to flutter and roost. The roofs of these coops were often slanted, designed to allow rainwater to flow down and away, preventing any pooling that might disturb the delicate balance of the interior. As the villagers had learned from experience, a flat roof would invite trouble, leading to dampness and discomfort for their feathered friends. The roofing material varied. Some favored thatch for its natural insulation, while others opted for wooden shingles, each placing them with care, ensuring they overlapped neatly. The pigeons were not merely pets. They were vital to the daily life of the village. Their droppings, rich in nitrogen, served as an essential fertilizer for the fields that sustained the community. Therefore, the villagers had established a routine for managing the coops, ensuring cleanliness and order. Each morning at dawn, a designated caretaker would arise early, their feet softly padding across the cold earthen floor of their home. The morning air was crisp, filled with the scents of dew and earth. With a small wooden bucket in hand, the caretaker would approach the coop, noting the sound of the pigeons stirring within. The doors were crafted with care, swinging open smoothly on well-hinged frames, revealing the soft cooing of the birds. Inside, the coops were arranged with individual nesting boxes. Each box was approximately 1 cubic foot, providing a cozy space for the pigeons to rest. These boxes were lined with straw, which was changed regularly to maintain hygiene and comfort. The caretaker would then reach inside the coop, gently lifting out any soiled straw, placing it into the bucket for disposal. This process, though simple, required patience and a delicate touch. It took around 20 minutes to clean the entire coop, ensuring that each nesting box was fresh and inviting. The act was meditative, a moment to connect with the birds, to observe their gentle nature, and to appreciate their role in the village. Once the coop was clean, the caretaker would refill the feeding troughs. Each trough could hold up to 2 quarts of grain, usually a mixture of barley and oats. The villagers sourced the grain from local merchants, paying roughly 2 pence for a sack weighing 50 pounds. This grain would last several weeks, depending on the number of pigeons in the coop, which typically ranged from 20 to 50 birds. After the pigeons were fed, the caretaker would check the water supply. A simple stone basin, filled with fresh water, served as the source for the pigeons' hydration. The basin was placed in the corner of the coop, shaded from direct sunlight to keep the water cool. Each week, the villagers would scrub the basin with a mixture of sand and salt, ensuring it was clean and inviting for their birds. The pigeons would drink eagerly, dipping their beaks into the cool water, a soothing sight for the caretaker. The next task involved adjusting the roof for optimal poop management, a process that required collaboration with fellow villagers. They would gather tools, a wooden ladder, a set of small hand saws, and a hammer. The ladder, made from sturdy oak, measured 7 feet tall, allowing access to the roof with ease. The villagers would climb up slowly and carefully, mindful of their footing, as they inspected the slats of the roof for any areas that might need adjusting. And to facilitate the flow of droppings, the roof was often designed with small channels, directing waste towards a spacious trough, which would eventually lead to the fields beyond. This trough, made from reclaimed wood, was approximately 2 feet wide and 3 feet deep, allowing for efficient collection. Each week, the villagers would empty this trough, spreading the nutrient-rich droppings across the fields, ensuring the earth remained fertile and productive. Following the maintenance of the coop, the villagers would gather to discuss the day's tasks. The morning sun would rise higher in the sky, illuminating their faces with a warm glow. They would share stories, exchanging information about the health of their pigeons, discussing any changes in behavior that might require attention. This communal time served to strengthen their bonds, a gentle reminder of the interconnectedness of their lives. As the day progressed, the villagers would turn their attention to the preparation of evening meals. The aroma of freshly baked bread and simmering stews would fill the air. Throughout the day, many hands contributed to the meals, from gathering vegetables from their gardens to tending to the hearth. Each villager had a role, whether it was kneading dough or stirring pots, creating a rhythm that echoed throughout the village. With the sun beginning to set, the villagers would take one final look at the coops. They would ensure that each door was securely closed, each latch fastened tightly. The pigeons, now settled in for the night, would coo softly, their calming sounds weaving through the air. The villagers took comfort in knowing that their responsibilities were fulfilled. The tools used for the care of the pigeons, buckets, troughs, and containers, were cleaned and stored neatly. Each tool had its own designated place within the storage shed, a small wooden building built alongside the coops. Here, the villagers kept everything in order, from the brushes used to clean the basins to the buckets for collecting droppings. Each item was placed carefully, ensuring that when needed, they could be found with ease. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, the villagers would retreat to their homes, reflecting on the day's work. They would share a final meal, the warmth of camaraderie wrapping around them like a comforting blanket. The day would come to a close as lanterns were lit, casting a soft glow, inviting rest and relaxation. Ciao. With the soft cooing of the pigeons in the background and the warmth of their homes, the villagers would lay down, ready to drift into a peaceful sleep. Each breath would slow, each heartbeat would calm, as the night wrapped around them like a warm, comforting cocoon. Kah! Ow! As the moon hung high in the velvet sky, a sense of tranquility settled over the village. The pigeons, now nestled in their coops, brought a silence that was both familiar and soothing. Each villager had their own routine when it came to the care of these birds, a rhythm that was practiced and perfected over time. Each morning, at the break of dawn, the villagers would rise, the soft light of day gently nudging them from their slumber. They would dress in simple garments, often made from wool or linen, garments that had seen many mornings like this. Slowly, they would make their way to the pigeon coops, the wooden doors creaking softly as they opened, releasing the sweet, earthy scent of hay and feathers into the cool morning air. The first task was always the same. The pigeons needed to be fed. A careful blend of grains was prepared the night before. The grains included barley, wheat, and sometimes a sprinkle of corn. Each measure was precise, ensuring that every pigeon received the right amount of nourishment. The villagers would take a small wooden scoop, its handle worn smooth from years of use, to fill bowls placed strategically around the coop. When I knew one day, these bowls were not lavish. They were simply made from clay, unglazed, with a rough texture that helped prevent slipping. Each bowl was filled to a depth of precisely 2 inches, a depth that allowed the pigeons to eat comfortably without scattering the grains. As the grains were scattered, the villagers would quietly observe the pigeons as they pecked and cooed, their movements gentle and unhurried. After feeding, the next task was cleaning. A dustpan made from sturdy wood would be retrieved. This was a simple tool, designed to sweep away the droppings that gathered on the straw bedding. The droppings were collected carefully, as they would be used in the gardens as fertilizer, enriching the soil for the vegetables that sustained the village. The straw itself was replaced regularly, about once a week. Fresh straw was delivered from the fields, bundled in neat sheaves. Each sheaf weighed between 10 to 15 pounds, manageable enough for a villager to carry. The fresh straw would be spread evenly, providing a soft and warm bedding for the pigeons. The process was rhythmic, a back-and-forth motion that created a cozy nest for the birds, inviting them to settle in comfortably. Once the cleaning was complete, attention turned to the water supply. A large wooden trough, sturdy and well-crafted, was filled with fresh water. This trough was approximately 3 feet long, a foot wide, and a foot deep, allowing ample space for the pigeons to drink. The water was changed daily. It was vital to maintain cleanliness and ensure that the pigeons had access to fresh hydration. The villagers understood the importance of routine. Each morning the pigeons would drink, their small beaks dipping into the clear water, creating tiny ripples that danced across the surface. This simple act was a vital part of their day, a moment of calm in the gentle bustle of village life. As the day unfolded, the villagers would also inspect the coops. Each coop was a small structure, measuring about 6 feet by 8 feet, built with care and attention to detail. The roofs were slightly slanted, designed to allow rainwater to run off easily. The roofs were thatched with reeds, tightly woven to create an effective barrier against the elements. Every few weeks, a villager would take the time to adjust the thatch, ensuring it remained secure. This task required patience and a steady hand. A few reeds might be replaced, their lengths carefully measured to match the original. Each reed was about 2 feet long, selected for its flexibility and strength. The villagers would work slowly, weaving in new materials, reinforcing the roof so that it remained sturdy against the wind and rain. And so, as the sun traced its path across the sky, the villagers would engage in various tasks. Some would gather herbs and greens from their gardens to supplement the pigeons' diet, while others would focus on repairs around the coops. A small hammer and a few nails, made from iron, were always on hand. Nails were approximately 2 inches long, with rounded heads that fit snugly into the wood, holding the structures together. Each repair was methodical, the rhythm of hammering echoing softly in the air. With each strike of the hammer, a sense of security was built into the very fabric of the village. While some villagers maintained the physical structures, others turned to the pigeons themselves. Training the pigeons was a gentle process, requiring patience and understanding. Every day, for about 30 minutes, a villager would sit quietly among the birds, offering small treats. These treats would include a few sunflower seeds or bits of dried fruit, provided sparingly to encourage trust. The pigeons would learn to associate the soft voice of the villagers with comfort and sustenance. Slowly, over weeks and months, they would approach, their confidence growing with each visit. This bond between the villagers and the pigeons was cherished, a connection that transcended the mundane tasks of daily life. Yea, as evening approached, the villagers would gather again at the coops. Each evening ritual was accompanied by a sense of satisfaction. The pigeons would be herded gently into their coops, a soft call beckoning them home. The villagers would count each bird, reassuring themselves that all were present and accounted for. This count was methodical, requiring a keen eye. The pigeons were numbered in their minds. Each bird was known by its unique markings and behaviors. This attention to detail created a bond that was deeply rooted in the daily rhythms of life. After securing the coops for the night, the villagers would sit for a short time in the dim light of the lanterns. The gentle flicker of the flames cast soft shadows on the walls, creating a peaceful atmosphere. Conversations would revolve around the day's tasks, the pigeons, and the coming days. The night would settle in, wrapping the village in a soft blanket of darkness. The coops stood silent, the pigeons resting, their soft coos fading into the night. Within the homes, the villagers would prepare for sleep, their hearts full from the day. They would lay down, their bodies sinking into the warmth of their beds, feeling grateful for the simple joys that each day had brought. The responsibilities of the day were set aside, and with every breath, they would gradually drift into the comforting embrace of sleep. And so, in this peaceful village, life continued in gentle waves, day by day, moment by moment, each aspect of life as crucial as the last, each task a thread in the fabric of their existence. The process of maintaining the pigeon coops was a daily ritual, filled with small tasks that required attention to detail. Each morning, as the sun began to rise, casting a soft glow across the landscape, the villagers would rise with it, their bodies gradually awakening to the sounds of nature. The first task of the day was often the inspection of the coops, a careful evaluation of their condition, requiring only simple tools, a sturdy broom, a small bucket, and perhaps a handful of fresh straw. The broom, made of tightly bound twigs, was used to clear any debris that might have gathered overnight. It was a gentle sweeping motion back and forth, as the villagers paid careful attention to each corner. Pigeons, though clean creatures, still left traces of their presence, and the ritual of cleaning was essential to ensure their health. The broom would glide over the ground, lifting the collected droppings and scattered seeds, gathering everything into a neat pile. Once the floor was clear, the villagers would take a moment to collect the droppings, the waste of the pigeons, which was in fact a valuable resource. This manure was often used in gardens, enriching the soil for the next planting. A small bucket, perhaps holding 2 quarts, would be filled methodically, the content carefully added, layer by layer, until it reached the brim. This task, although perhaps not the most glamorous, was performed with a sense of purpose. With the droppings collected, the next step involved freshening the coops. Fresh straw was essential, providing warmth and comfort for the pigeons. The villagers would carry bundles of straw, tied neatly with twine, to the coop hut. Each bundle would weigh around 5 pounds, not too heavy, but significant enough to remind them of the effort involved. Unraveling the twine, they would scatter the straw evenly across the coop floor, a soft bed for the pigeons to rest upon. Eh, the pigeons, always curious, would shuffle about, inspecting the fresh bedding. Their gentle coos and soft movements added a soothing backdrop to the morning's tasks. The villagers would watch the birds for a moment, delighting in their lively nature, before moving on to the next part of their routine. As the sun rose higher, illuminating the village with its warm rays, it was time to adjust the roofs of the coops. The roofs were often made of wooden planks, carefully fitted together, but with time, they could warp or shift. Each roof was about 6 feet long and 4 feet wide, with a gentle slope to allow rainwater to run off. The villagers understood the importance of keeping the roofs in good condition. A well-maintained roof ensured the pigeons stayed dry and healthy. To adjust the roofs, the villagers would gather simple tools: a hammer, a few nails, and occasionally some fresh wooden shingles. The sound of the hammer striking the nails was rhythmic, echoing softly in the air. Each nail was placed with care, securing the planks tightly against the coop's frame. The process required patience, as they would often step back to inspect their work, ensuring everything was just right. This task was not hurried. It was a careful, deliberate process. The villagers knew that little by little, by attending to these details, they were safeguarding their birds' well-being. They would take time to ensure that each roof was properly aligned, adjusting the angles slightly if needed and ensuring that the shingles overlapped perfectly to prevent leaks. Once the roofs were adjusted, the next step was to replenish the water supply. Water was crucial for the health of the pigeons, requiring fresh supplies each morning. A simple wooden bucket, often carved from a single piece of wood, would be filled at a nearby well. The well was a few minutes' walk from the village, its cool, clear water a source of life. The bucket held approximately 3 gallons, a heavy load when filled, but the villagers moved steadily, their feet finding a rhythm on the familiar path. With each step, they would breathe in the crisp morning air, feeling the gentle warmth of the sun on their skin. Arriving at the coop, they would pour the fresh water into a shallow basin, allowing the pigeons to drink freely. The sound of water splashing softly against the wood was calming, creating a serene atmosphere. The pigeons would gather around, their soft coos rising as they drank, a soothing sound that echoed the tranquility of the village. Once the pigeons were tended to, the villagers would often take a moment to observe their flight patterns. This was a cherished time of day. They would stand quietly, eyes trained on the sky. The pigeons would take off in flocks, swirling and diving, their wings creating a soft rush of air. The villagers noted the birds' movements, assessing their health and vitality, always looking for signs of well-being. At this point, it was essential to record the day's observations. A small leather-bound notebook, worn and soft from years of use, would be retrieved. Each villager kept such a notebook, filled with notes about the pigeons' behaviors, feeding habits, and any changes they observed. Writing was a calming ritual, each stroke of the quill pen deliberate and soothing. The ink, made from a simple mixture of soot and water, flowed smoothly across the parchment, recording the details of their day in careful script. These notes, while seemingly small, contributed to the collective knowledge of the village. Over time, the villagers had developed a system of sharing their findings, gathering once a week to discuss their pigeons. This meeting was a cozy affair, often held in the warm glow of the hearth, where they would share tales of their feathered friends, discussing the best practices for care and noting any peculiar behaviors. The discussions were filled with camaraderie, a shared understanding of the importance of their responsibilities. They would sip warm herbal tea, made from the leaves of local plants as they engaged in these exchanges. The warmth of the tea radiated through their hands, adding to the comfort of the moment. As the day progressed, the villagers would tend to their other chores, but the pigeons remained a constant source of joy and responsibility. Whether it was mending fences, harvesting crops, or preparing for winter, the pigeons were always in their thoughts. Evenings in the village were marked by the soft rhythm of daily routines, the comfort of predictability. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the coops, the villagers would prepare for the night once again. They would secure the coops, ensuring the roofs were sound, the doors closed tightly, and the pigeons safely inside. Naman Endi Sabisabo. Aga. This gentle closing of the day brought a sense of fulfillment, a quiet satisfaction in knowing that their feathered companions were cared for well. The villagers would then retreat to their homes, their hearts warmed by the simple yet profound connection they shared with their pigeons. Piau! And thus, the day would come to a close, the soft sounds of the village fading into the background, replaced by the gentle coos of the pigeons settling down for the night. Each day flowed into the next, a soothing rhythm of life where every task, no matter how small, was a vital part of a larger tapestry. Slowly and gently, the village would surrender to the night, each villager drifting into dreams, knowing that tomorrow would bring more of the same, comforting and predictable, like the soft flutter of wings against the evening sky. Yenana, Asili. 1. As dawn unfurled its gentle light across the village, the first tasks of the day began to stir. The villagers, still enveloped in the warmth of their blankets, would slowly rise to the familiar sounds that filled the air. Soft coos from the pigeon coops, the rustle of feathers, and the distant echo of a woodpecker at work. With each passing moment, the day beckoned, inviting them to attend to their daily rituals. The first step was to gather the tools required for maintenance. A simple wooden bucket, often used to collect fresh straw, would be filled with care. This straw served as bedding for the pigeons, providing comfort and absorbing waste. The villagers knew the importance of cleanliness, and so, every morning, the old straw would be removed and replaced with new ati. This process took about 15 minutes. Where the villagers often used a wooden rake, hand-carved and worn smooth by years of use, to gently shift the bedding. With soft, rhythmic motions, they would remove the old straw, forming small piles on the ground outside the coop. As they worked, they would breathe slowly, focusing on the steady pull of the rake, the satisfying scratch against the wood floor of the coop. Once the bedding was cleared, they would take a moment to inspect the structure of the coop. Each morning brought a new opportunity to look for signs of wear. The thatched roof, crafted from reeds and straw, was a significant part of the coop's design. Over time, these materials could become loose or damaged. Villagers would climb carefully onto a small wooden ladder, often leaning against the coop, to examine the roof closely. With a light hammer, they would gently tap the thatch, ensuring it was secure. If any areas seemed loose, they would use twine made from natural fibers to tighten the thatch, securing it in place. This task required patience and precision, taking about half an hour to complete. Villagers understood the value of a well-maintained roof, as it kept the pigeons safe from rain and wind. Next, they would gather any necessary repairs for the coop itself. The wooden frames, sturdy and strong, could occasionally need reinforcement. Using nails, also hand-forged by local blacksmiths, they would replace any broken pieces or add support where needed. Each nail was a simple yet vital component, holding the whole structure together. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the villagers would turn their attention to feeding the pigeons. This was a moment of connection, a time to observe the birds closely. The feed, typically a mix of grains, wheat, barley, and oats, would be measured out in small wooden bowls. Each bowl held exactly 1 pint of feed, a precise measurement that ensured the pigeons received the proper nutrition. Nay, the act of pouring the grains was deliberate. The sound of the grains cascading into the bowls was soothing. As the villagers placed the bowls inside the coop, they would take a moment to watch the pigeons approach. Their feathers glistening softly in the morning light, the birds would eagerly peck at the grains, a satisfying sight that brought joy to their caretakers. The villagers knew the importance of routine. Feeding would happen at the same time each morning. This predictability built trust. The pigeons quickly learned to associate the sound of the wooden door opening with the arrival of their meal. After feeding, the villagers would check the water supply. They would refill the clay water vessels, ensuring fresh water was available. Each vessel held 2 quarts, enough to keep the pigeons hydrated throughout the day. The refreshing sound of water pouring into the vessel was another comforting rhythm of the morning. The vessels would then be placed in a shaded area of the coop, protecting the water from the sun's heat. This simple act of care, of filling and placing, was essential to the pigeons' well-being. The villagers took pride in their routines, knowing that each small action contributed to a greater whole. Throughout the day, the villagers would occasionally return to the coops. They would take time to observe the pigeons, to ensure everything was proceeding smoothly. The pigeons, in their leisurely manner, would preen their feathers or stretch their wings, creating a serene atmosphere that enveloped the village. When it came to cleaning the coops, the villagers followed a structured routine. Each week, on the same day, they would perform a thorough cleaning of the entire coop. This involved not only replacing the bedding, but also washing the clay water vessels. The cleaning process was methodical. They would take a small brush, often made from natural fibers, to scrub the insides of the vessels, ensuring no remnants of yesterday's water remained. This task took about an hour, but the villagers found comfort in the routine. They would gather the old straw and waste into the same wooden bucket from the morning. Once filled, they would take it to a designated area behind the village, where it would decompose and eventually enrich the soil. The villagers understood the value of sustainability. By composting waste, they contributed to the health of their land, ensuring future growth. Each action, from cleaning to composting, was a thread in the fabric of village life, creating a seamless blend of care and efficiency. As evening approached, the villagers would embark on another round of checks. This time, they would ensure all was secure once more. The roofs of the coops would be inspected again, the doors closed tightly. Each villager had their own method of ensuring security, a ritual passed down through generations. Some would tie twine around the door latches, while others preferred simply locking them with a sturdy wooden peg. The act of securing the coops brought a familiar sense of calm. The village would settle down, knowing that their feathered friends were safe for the night. As they returned to their homes, they would take a final glance back, reassured by the sight of the coops nestled in the twilight. And the pigeons, now tucked away, would coo softly, a lullaby that echoed through the village. The villagers, enveloped in the tranquility of the evening, would find comfort in the knowledge that tomorrow would bring the same gentle routines, the same soothing rhythms of life. And so, the cycle continued, day after day, slowly and gently, reinforcing a sense of peace, a connection not only with their pigeons, but with the very essence of village life itself. As dawn broke over the village, the first light would gently warm the rooftops of the pigeon coops. The villagers, having rested peacefully through the night, would begin their day with a sense of purpose. They would rise early, often before the sun fully peaked over the horizon. Each morning was marked by the same simple rituals, the same predictable patterns. The sound of soft footsteps would fill the streets as villagers made their way to the coops. They would carry with them simple tools, a small wooden bucket, a scoop fashioned from a worn piece of metal, and a sturdy broom, made from twigs bound together with twine. These were the tools of their trade, the instruments of their daily maintenance. The first task of the day was to clean the coops. The villagers understood the importance of cleanliness. A tidy coop ensured the health of the pigeons and maintained the overall harmony of village life. They would begin by gently sweeping away the droppings, which had accumulated overnight in the corners and along the perches. This task could take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the size of the coop and the number of pigeons residing within. Once the coop was cleared, the villagers would inspect the food and water supplies. They would refill the feeding troughs with a mixture of grains, typically a blend of barley, oats, and a touch of peas. This blend was carefully measured, often around 2 cups per tray, ensuring that no pigeon went hungry. The water, fresh and cool, would be poured into a shallow basin, allowing the pigeons to drink comfortably. The feed and water supplies were replenished every day, a routine that brought peace of mind. The villagers often exchanged notes on the amounts used, sharing knowledge about the best ratios and blends for their birds. Some preferred to use a small scoop made from a hollowed-out gourd, while others had fashioned a measuring cup from a discarded tin. By mid-morning, the coops would be filled with the gentle cooing of contented pigeons. The villagers would take a moment to observe their feathered companions. They would note which pigeons were particularly vibrant, which ones seemed a bit subdued. Observing the birds was part of their responsibility, a mindful practice that connected them to the rhythms of life in the village. While some villagers would tend to the coops, others would embark on the task of gathering materials for repairs. Wood was a crucial resource, and each villager would have their preferred suppliers, local craftsmen who specialized in timber. A sturdy plank, usually around 6 feet in length and 1 inch thick, would be purchased for a few pence. These planks were essential for reinforcing the coops, ensuring they remained secure against the elements. The villagers often relied on local trade, exchanging goods and services. A carpenter might receive grain in exchange for his labor, while another villager might barter a basket of fresh produce for a new roof shingle. This reciprocity fostered a sense of community, intertwining their lives and livelihoods. As noontime approached, the villagers would pause for a brief respite. They would gather around a communal table, perhaps sharing a simple meal of bread and cheese, accompanied by a cup of warm herbal tea. These moments of camaraderie were cherished, offering a gentle reminder of their shared purpose. After lunch, the afternoon tasks would commence. Some villagers chose to focus on ventilation, a vital aspect of pigeon care. Proper airflow within the coops was essential to maintain a comfortable environment for the birds. They would check the small openings, crafted with care, ensuring they were not blocked by debris or excess straw. Small adjustments might be made, perhaps repositioning a slat or two to enhance airflow. This meticulous attention to detail could take another hour, but it was a labor of love. The villagers also paid close attention to the roofs of the coops. Adjustments were often necessary as the seasons changed. Thatching would be checked and repaired as needed. Thatch was typically made from layers of dried straw, skillfully layered to provide insulation and protection against rain. The villagers understood that a well-thatched roof would keep the coops warm in winter and cool during the summer months. The process of thatching was a delicate one. Each layer was placed with precision, and special care was taken at the edges to prevent water from seeping through. The villagers would often work together, sharing laughter and stories as they crafted a secure roof. These moments were imbued with warmth and connection, and the rhythmic motions of thatching became almost meditative. As the day wore on, the villagers would begin to prepare for the evening routine. They would gather again at the coops, tools in hand, ready to perform their nightly checks. A gentle reminder would pass among them to ensure that all doors were securely fastened and that the coops were free from any potential intruders. Each villager had a preferred method for closing the coops. Some would use a simple latch, while others employed a more complex locking mechanism made from wood and twine. These variations reflected the individuality of each villager, yet all shared the common goal of protecting their pigeons. In the twilight, as the sun dipped lower in the sky, the villagers would perform a final count of their birds. They would count each pigeon, ensuring that none had wandered astray. This practice, though simple, was imbued with a sense of responsibility. It was a gentle reminder that each pigeon mattered, that each life was to be cared for with diligence and love. Once the birds were secure, the villagers would take a moment to reflect. They would stand together, watching the coops in the fading light, feeling the cool evening breeze upon their faces. They would share a sense of contentment, knowing that their efforts of the day had contributed to the tranquility of their village. As darkness enveloped the village, the coops stood silent, their occupants nestled within, safe and sound. The rhythmic sound of cooing seemed to blend with the whispers of the wind, creating a symphony of peace. The villagers would retreat to their homes, carrying with them the memories of the day, the simple joys of tending to their feathered friends. And so, the cycle continued, day after day, slowly and gently, reinforcing a sense of peace, a connection not only with their pigeons, but with the very essence of village life itself. Ni. In the early morning light, as the sun began to rise, the villagers would gather their tools for the day's task. Each person had their own set of instruments, carefully chosen for the specific needs of pigeon care. Wooden scoops, fashioned from the sturdy oak trees that surrounded the village, were essential for cleaning out the coops. These scoops measured about 2 feet in length, with a broad, shallow head, perfect for gathering droppings and leftover grains. Villagers would often use woven baskets, made from reeds, to collect the feathers that occasionally fell from the pigeons' preening. Each basket would hold about 5 liters, a practical size for a single morning's work. The feathers, soft and downy, would later be used for pillows or on occasion for light blankets. Before the day's work began in earnest, the villagers would take a moment to prepare their feed. The primary diet of the pigeons consisted of grains, such as barley and oats. The grains were measured carefully, typically a cup per pigeon, ensuring that every bird received its fair share. The villagers would often gather in the barn, where large sacks of grain were stored. Each sack weighed approximately 50 kilograms, a manageable load for 2 villagers to lift together. with the grains poured into smaller containers, often made of sturdy clay. They would carry the feed to the coops. Each container would hold enough food to last a few days, depending on the number of pigeons. The act of distributing the feed was performed with gentle precision. The villagers would sprinkle the grains across the dirt floor of the coops, creating little patches of food that would entice the pigeons to forage. As the pigeons began to eat, the villagers would take a moment to observe their feathered companions. Each pigeon had its distinct color and pattern, from the monochrome grays to the mottled browns. This gentle ritual of feeding and watching was a vital part of the day, a time to connect with the birds and appreciate their presence. Once the pigeons were fed, the next task would be to check the coops for any necessary repairs. The structures, often built from timber and thatch, required regular maintenance to ensure they remained secure and comfortable for the birds. The roofs, slanted to allow for rain runoff, were particularly important. If the roof became leaky, it could lead to dampness inside the coop, which was not ideal for the health of the pigeons. Villagers would gather the tools needed for repairs: nails, hammers, and extra thatch. The nails were typically made from iron and came in various sizes. The most common size for coop repairs was about 3 inches long, strong enough to hold the wooden beams together securely. The process of repairing the roof was methodical and careful. First, the villagers would climb a sturdy ladder, often fashioned from 2 long planks of wood, tied together with twine. This ladder typically reached about 10 feet high, allowing access to the top of the coops. Once at the peak, they would inspect the thatch, ensuring that it was tightly woven and free from gaps. If any sections were found wanting, they would carefully remove the old thatch, which had become brittle over time. This thatch was usually around 6 inches thick at its fullest, providing insulation against the cold. New thatch, gathered from nearby fields, was then layered on, ensuring a snug fit that would keep the coops dry and warm. Villagers worked together, each person knowing their role. Some would hold the ladder, while others would pass tools up and down. The process was rhythmic, almost soothing, as they communicated with gentle nods and soft-spoken words. Throughout the day, the villagers would also practice the etiquette associated with pigeon care. It was essential to approach the coops quietly, to avoid startling the birds. Soft voices, soothing murmurs, would fill the air as they discussed their tasks. This gentle demeanor not only helped maintain the calm atmosphere, but also fostered a sense of harmony between the villagers and their pigeons. After the morning tasks were completed, villagers would often take a stroll around the village, allowing time for reflection. They would discuss the day's work, share stories of the pigeons, and exchange tips on care and maintenance. This communal sharing was a treasured part of village life, reinforcing bonds and creating a tapestry of shared experiences. As the sun reached its zenith, the villagers would gather once more to assess the state of the coops. They would check to ensure that all doors were securely fastened, that the feed was plentiful, and that each pigeon was accounted for. This thorough check would take about an hour, a time of patience and detail. During this time, they would also examine the nesting boxes, which were lined with soft straw. Each box was about 2 feet long and 1 foot wide, providing ample space for a pair of pigeons to settle in. The villagers would often replace the straw, adding fresh material to ensure comfort for the birds. This task required gentle hands, as the villagers carefully cleared out the old straw and replaced it with new ayu. Imsiao. The fresh straw, gathered from the fields, was fragrant and warm, providing a cozy atmosphere within the coop. Once the nesting boxes were refreshed, the villagers would move on to the drinking water. Each coop contained a clay basin, about 2 liters in capacity, filled with fresh water daily. The water was sourced from a nearby stream, known for its purity. The villagers would carry buckets, holding about 5 liters each, to refill the basins, ensuring that the pigeons had access to clean, cool water throughout the day. The act of caring for the pigeons was imbued with a sense of purpose. Each step, from feeding to cleaning, was performed with thoughtfulness and care. The villagers understood that their efforts directly influenced the health and happiness of the birds. As the day began to wane, the villagers would return to the coops once more. This final check was a moment of peace, a time to appreciate the fruits of their labor. Together, they would observe the pigeons settling in for the night, their soft cooing filling the air. The villagers would take a moment to breathe deeply, feeling a sense of accomplishment and connection. Wow. This gentle routine, carried out day after day, created a rhythm that was both comforting and stabilizing. The process of caring for the pigeons was not merely a chore. It was a practice of mindfulness, a reminder of the simple joys found in daily life. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, the coops would stand as silent sentinels, guarding the sleeping birds within. The villagers would return to their homes, leaving behind the soft sounds of cooing and the gentle rustling of feathers. Each night, the same simple tasks would beckon, inviting them to engage once more in the soothing cycle of care, community, and connection. Slowly and gently, the life of the village continued, in harmony with its feathered inhabitants. In our exploration of the intricate world of medieval village pigeon coops, we gently uncovered the meticulous routines and protocols surrounding these quaint structures. We discovered how villagers carefully constructed their coops, ensuring comfort and sanitation for their feathered companions. We meandered through the detailed processes of adjusting roofs, managing droppings, and the daily tasks that maintained harmony in these small communities. Each aspect, though seemingly mundane, contributed to a rhythm of life that was both soothing and methodical. As the day transitions into night, picture a quiet room, softly illuminated by the glow of a single candle, shadows dancing gently on the walls. Your body sinks into the comfort of your resting place, allowing the tranquility of the evening to envelop you. If you enjoyed this gentle journey, please consider liking, subscribing, or sharing your thoughts in the comments below. Pow. And remember to turn on loop so you can drift back into this serene exploration whenever you wish.